Hi guys, it's Amanda from My Pets 1031, and today I'm going to be showing you my dog's diet. Finding a dry dog food can be kind of difficult, and it can actually be really expensive. Most of the cheap kinds of dog food you find at the pet store are really bad, and they're full of byproduct meals, which are all the waste parts of the animals, which are bad for dogs, and a lot of carbohydrates, which don't actually fill the dog up and can cause obesity. Because of this, if you want your dog to have a good diet, you either have to do one of three things. Buy really expensive food from the pet store, which still isn't that good, buy wet food, or give your dog a natural raw diet. I do a combination of the three. Because dry dog food is so expensive, I went with a lower quality but still good dog food called NutroMax, and I give him about 1.5 cups every morning and every night, and I mix it with either wet dog food or raw dog food. When you're buying a dry dog food, it's really important not to judge the food on the advertisement or how well you know the brand, but instead to look at every label and compare them and look and see what the first main ingredients are. They should always be meat, not byproducts or meals, but like chicken or beef or something like that. And the second to third ingredients on the list should be vegetables. If you see a food that has a lot of byproduct meals or carbohydrates or grains, that is not going to be a filling or substantial dog food, and you should find a different brand. For many dogs, dry kibble is the only kind of food they're ever going to receive besides the occasional wet dog food. But these things aren't actually that good for your dog. Given if you just give your dog dry food, they're not going to have as good of a diet as a dog that just gets wet food. However, no matter what kind of food your dog is on, they can still live for a very long time. It's just that they're not getting the full nutritional value that they should be receiving in their diet. In the wild, dogs only eat raw food that they hunt, and this food has a lot more moisture in it than the dehydrated dog food that we give our pets today. This is why adding wet dog food or just feeding wet dog food is a very good idea, because just giving dry dog food can be very detrimental to our pet's health, because then they don't get the amount of moisture that they need. Just drinking water isn't enough, and it can damage their liver or their kidneys or any other body parts. Now, there is something else that many pet owners are turning to, and this is raw food. Raw food is basically just uncooked meat. Now, there is a danger to using raw food because us humans, we can't fight off bacteria that lives in the raw food, so it can actually be detrimental to our health if we aren't sanitary, washing all the surfaces and not washing our hands before we go and eat stuff ourselves. Even if our dogs lick our face or something after they eat the raw food, we can get sick, so that is a precaution that people who feed raw food need to take. For me personally, I use containers that only the raw food will ever go in. This means that human food will never go in that. It is going to be washed after raw food is all used up, but it never will contain human food. I never put the raw food on any surfaces besides surfaces only meant for the raw food, and after I use raw food, I thoroughly wash my hands. Right now, Kai is eating raw food from the pet store. As I convert him to raw food that is just the meat itself and has not been processed and packaged, it will come directly from the butcher. Some people can't see these things for their own reasons, but it's just the circle of life, and it's what's healthiest for my pet. So as I'm transitioning him, because I've only had Kai for about a month, not even, I decided to go from kibble to wet food, with kibble still being his main diet. And then I decided to slowly move out the wet food and just go to store-bought raw food. And then once he's fully transitioned onto that diet, I will go from only store-bought raw food and some kibble, and then transition that to all raw food from the butcher. So eventually I'm hoping that I'll be able to just feed him raw food with nothing else. Of course, it's always good to supplement their diet with other things so they don't become picky. For example, if you have someone come watch your dog and you leave and they cannot feed raw food for various reasons, and you want to switch them over to kibble and wet food for a few days or a week or something, your dog needs to be able to adjust to that and not be picky about it. So for Kai in the morning, I like to give him his 1½ cup of kibble, and then I give him 1/8 of a cup of this fresh pet raw food, and I use so much of it now I don't even know what it's called anymore because the brand is gone, but I give him 1/8 of a pound of it. Then in the evening, he will also get his 1½ cup of kibble and about 1/4 to 1/3 of a can of this Blue Wilderness canned food. And it doesn't really matter what flavor it is. I just kind of switch it up every now and then. Now this raw food isn't the kind that actually most people find gross because there's no blood or anything in it. It's actually very processed, like the kind of meat that you would buy in the grocery store. Now my family buys meat directly from the butcher, so we get it with all the blood and stuff in it, and it's not as processed. So once you switch your dog all the way to meat from your local butcher, then it won't look like this anymore, and it will actually have blood and bones and such mixed in with it. Come here, buddy. No, calm down. Sit. Look. Look.